Good morning, wonderful people. Please stand and body your spirit as we sing our gathering hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Hillsborough. We are an open and welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, member, friend, or guest, we are glad that you are here. We are a community of liberal, open-minded people who strive to connect with one another in love. We are defined by covenant rather than by a statement of belief or creed. We support each other in spiritual growth, deepening of faith, and challenging one another to find more love and deep truth both inside ourselves and in the world. My name is Heather Kraft, and I'm your worship coordinator today. I want to start by thanking everyone who has made today's service possible. It is truly a gift of love. I want to thank our pianist today, David Yelton. I also want to thank Amy Dark for creating the order of service, and AC Tharrington for handing it out every week. Thank you to Steve Mahaley and Alex Umburo for producing our online service. Thank you to Lou Goodall, who is our listening ear today. And thank you to all of the RE teachers who volunteer to help and guide our youngest members. Jerry Morris is our speaker today. He's a longtime friend and member of UUCH. He retired from 2 decades of retail sales management 20 years ago. Earlier, he served several years as an ordained pastor in the United Methodist Church before switching his career. Today, he will look at 2 very different ideas about the value of love in resolving social conflicts and how we as individuals participate in these conflicts. Before we create our sacred space and begin our worship, let's take a moment to share any announcements for the good of the community. Orange County is still in the yellow, so masks are required. Coffee service will be in the library, and we invite you to spread out through the church or outside since it's actually beautiful weather. And please remember to silence your cell phones or put them in worship mode. Are there any further announcements?
Hi, my name is Lou Goodall. I'm speaking on behalf of the Ministerial Discernment Committee. I think, can you all hear me? I think probably a lot of you have already seen that survey, and 13 of you have filled it out and submitted it. But we'd really like to get a whole lot more than just 13 because we really want to know what the congregation wants. So please have a look at that. And it can can be available from Amy in paper if you want to do it that way. So on the web or on paper, either way is fine, but please do it soon. Thank you.
Is it on our website? On our website or in the newsletter?
It was in the newsletter when it came out first. I'm not sure whether it's on the website. Also, of course, I'm here listening here today. Be glad to talk with you about anything you feel like talking about.
We will now create our sacred space by lighting our chalice, the Unitarian Universalist symbol for the light of truth that each of us seeks, the light of hope that each of us brings, and the eternal light of love. Our words today are the Names of Love by Reverend Scott Taylor. We light this chalice in the names of love, the love of family that brings us into being, allows us to bloom, and then sends us on our way with courage, knowing we can return, no matter what. The love of partnered hearts that teach us to trust and help us know that who we are does not end at the barrier of our own skin. The love of friends who help us feel seen and sing our song back to us when we cannot hear it with our ears alone. The love of community that bathes us in belonging and calls us to see the needs of others as our own. And the greatest love, the love that will not let us go, even in our fear, even in our failure, even when we are lonely or lost. Love invites us home. If we listen, it is doing so, even today. Our opening hymn is number 298, Wake Now My Senses, verses 1 through 3. Oh, yes, please rise and by your spirit. This is a welcoming community where we find connection, a sharing community where our joys are celebrated, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Each Sunday, we take some time to reflect on the special happenings that have occurred this week among our members and friends. Some choose to share aloud, while others choose to remain silent. Here we make room for both. For those of you who would like to share aloud, please take a moment before we begin to center yourself and collect your thoughts so that what you share this morning is personal, heartfelt, and brief. When you're ready, you can come forward to the microphone, tell us your name, and share what is in your heart. When you're finished, you can release a stone into the vase on the altar. If you're joining us online and you would like to share something, Please type it into the chat and let us know whether you would like us to read it here, and we can drop a stone for you. I'm going to go For those of you who prefer to silently acknowledge the joys and sorrows remaining in your heart, I invite you to come to the altar and release a stone in silence while David plays Spirit of Life. After he has played it through, you are all invited to join in singing. The words are printed in your order of service. We hold all of these things within the heart of this community, both spoken and unspoken, by remaining silent for a moment to consider what has been shared and how we might respond. Let us close with Amen and blessed be. We're now going to sing the children to class with the children's blessing inside the back cover of the hymnal.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm gonna get this mask here straightened out. Those things get tangled up with hearing aids and glasses, and sometimes it's not easy to take them off. But excuse me 1 second. I want to be able to hear what I say, so I'm putting my hearing aids in. I'm Jerry Morris. I'm a longtime friend of UUCH and a former member. And I appreciate the worship committee giving me this opportunity to speak this morning on a theme of love. But now, I got to confess, I was in sort of dilemma when I started to research this topic, because I found so much about love that there's no way possible I could cover all of the topics. So I decided to narrow it down a bit, and I did. And I'm calling what I'm about to present as the first principle of love, compassion. Now, the concept of compassion is familiar to almost everyone. It is embedded in most major religions as a golden rule of conduct. In our own Western religious tradition, it is known as the golden rule. You know that one. That rule about treating others the way you expect them to treat you. Assuming, of course, you want to be treated with kindness. There is an underlying assumption to these golden rules, regardless of what religion they're in. It is an assumption that almost everyone in the world can practice this rule, and if they do, there will be universal world peace. Now that's a noble goal. Interestingly, if you'll look in your 7 principles in the UUA, love is not mentioned. However, the words compassion and world peace are in those principles. They're very worthy goals. The question really before us this morning is, can love and compassion really bring about world peace? Can it bring about peace anywhere, in any group, at any level? Really? Well, that's what we're going to look at today. And there are 2 views I'd like for us to consider this morning. One is from a scientist named E.O. Wilson. He's a naturalist, an entomologist, an ecologist, and a biologist, but he is also responsible for developing the field of sociobiology. He's been very busy. The other author I would like for us to consider is Karen Armstrong. Karen is a former Roman Catholic sister. She is a religious historian and the author of numerous books on the subject of comparative religions. But now, before I go too far, I have to confess that this has been a very difficult message for me to prepare, basically for 2 reasons. One I've already mentioned is the enormous information about love. And as I searched online and with my own library for material, I found way too much information. Depending on which source I looked at, love can exist in various types, from just 2 to dozen or more. And I'm sure you've heard of most of them: romantic, agape, love of friends, parental love for their children, self-love, obsessive love, tough love, puppy love, fake love, and so forth. You get the picture. But the second reason for my difficulty lies in my own human nature. It was tested here recently, and as you know, it's not always easy to be human. Most of our noble intentions can be easily sidelined by sudden, unforeseen, and unpleasant events, as was mine. It wasn't a terrible event, but it was stressful. On February the 8th, in the late afternoon, my wife's email account was suddenly altered so that she could not respond to emails nor create new ones to send. Well, you know, you think that's not a big deal, but when you are in a group of people that need that access to correspond with on a frequent basis, it can be stressful. Of course, when I looked into it to try to rectify whatever the problem was by contacting my ISP, that's the Internet Service Provider, I couldn't get hold of a human being. I went to the website and I said I had a problem, and this little chat box comes up. And it says live chat. So I'm expecting a human being on the other end of it. So I enter that chat box, only to be placed in the 47th position in queue. Well, that's how it began. And I got dropped when it reached the 27th level. So I had sat there for almost an hour waiting to chat with someone, but you don't really talk to them, you know. You type in whatever message you want to tell them is bothering you. Well, over a period of 10 days, I had attempted numerous times to contact a human being through that chat box, only to be dropped several times in the process. Well, on the 10th day, I was finally successful. Now, why am I telling you this? Because at least 10 days, I was also trying to concentrate on a message about love. I can tell you that there were many moments love was the furthest thing from my mind. But we did get through that, and I did learn something useful. I learned what the word DISS, D-I-S-S, could really stand for. It could also mean digitally induced stress syndrome, because I was truly dissed. I think you get the picture. Our goals may be to be a kind, loving, and compassionate person, but there are forces that can and will interrupt us. And sometimes we contribute to our own problems by allowing ourselves to become so affected. And when we do, sometimes we realize how far we have drifted away from the person we think we should be, and we do try to make the needed adjustments and repairs, hopefully successfully. I thought about a comment that Ruth Graham, you know, the woman who was the wife of Reverend Billy Graham, she once said during an interview. She had described some of the difficult times early in their marriage, especially when her husband was away so often on his many tours. The interviewer then asked if she had ever considered divorce. Well, she thought for a moment. Then she replied that no, she had not thought about divorce, but she had thought about murder. So getting back to the main subject of love and compassion, I ask, are either of those things really helpful to us for achieving world peace? And if not, what keeps us from achieving that noble goal? After all, it's been thousands of years that this golden rule in many different languages, in many different cultures, has been promoted. Well, let me go back to Karen Armstrong, one of the authors I mentioned earlier. She believes that world peace through universal love and compassion is not only possible, but it is essential to life on this planet. In her book, 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life, she lists a regimen of 12 steps that includes learning what compassion is, having compassion for yourself, practicing mindfulness, having concern for everyone, and loving your enemies. Those are some of the things among the steps that she has listed. Well, I don't have time to explore these steps at this time, but we can keep them in mind. Her point is that we have to make a firm commitment to be compassionate. In the book's final chapter, Armstrong reminds us, and I quote, that the attempt to become a compassionate human being is a lifelong project. It is not achieved in an hour or a day or even in 12 steps. It is a struggle that will last until our dying hour. Then she gives us this advice. Instead of becoming depressed by our repeated failures, we should remember that constant practice does indeed make perfect, and that if we persevere, perhaps we too can become a force for good in the world. Well, that's one viewpoint. Now I would like to consider what E.O. Wilson had to say. He believes he has the answer. In his book, The Second Conquest of Earth, he cites evolutionary forces that have shaped individuals and societies. Here are some quotes from his book. The conflict between science and religion began during the late 20th century as an attempt by scientists to explain the origins of religion as a product of evolution. And it continues. The evidence points to organized religion as an expression of tribalism. He goes on to explain that people are conditioned by evolution to value the tribe above the individual's needs. I take his point to mean that to devalue the tribe is to devalue oneself. And definitely tribes can and do banish people who do not conform. Now, what do I mean by tribes? Well, you know there are natives throughout the world who are in tribal cultures, but tribes can also mean religious organizations. It could mean political organizations, nations. In this viewpoint, love and compassion, while important on the individual level, does not translate at the tribal level, especially between tribes where conflicts are common. You only have to pick up the paper, look on your iPhone at the news, or listen to the television news at night to realize the conflicts that surround us as products of tribalism, or the concept of tribalism. Maybe you have noticed the political conflicts in our own nation and the amount of stress these conflicts are generating in people's personal lives. I think both viewpoints are valid. We are products of our nature. We are driven by biological, social, and psychological forces. But we can make choices. Choices that can better our lives and those around us. But if that is our choice, if that is our desire, we have to make the commitment. We have to make the conscious effort to be that person. To be compassionate is to put love into action. Maybe one thing that holds us back sometimes is our understanding of that word compassion. In Webster's Unabridged Dictionary, compassion is defined as suffering with another, hence sympathy. sorrow for the distress or misfortunes of another with the desire to help. But then there is this other definition of compassion, one word: pity. Perhaps it is this last word, pity, that gives compassion a negative connotation. After all, the golden rule would sound very different if we said we should have pity on others and then we'd have pity on us. Well, that word sounds a little bit condescending, right? But that attribute of the word pity is a modern invention, because the word pity historically has always meant having concern for the well-being of a person, not condescending on them. And that's how I think of those two words, as standing with someone in their time of distress and need, not as an act of condescension. And so far as knowing how much good love and compassion can actually mean to anyone, I remember a saying from my time as a member of the Optimist Club in Durham years ago. There was this motto that went something like this: do all the good you can for as many people as you can for as long as you can. Today I would say to myself, be as compassionate as you can to as many people as you can, whenever you can, beginning with yourself. In closing, I want to share these words from Ruth Graham again. You look at me and see my flaws. I look at you and I see flaws too. Those who love know love deserves a second glance. Each failure deserves a second chance. Love looks to see beyond the scars, the flaws, to see the cause. And scars become an honorable badge of battles fought and won or lost, but fought. The product, not the cost, is what love sought. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Each week we take a monetary offering to support our social justice work in the community. This support comes in the form of donations. This month our community partner is the Orange County chapter of the NAACP. You may donate by putting cash or check in the basket. Please make checks payable to UUCH and put plate in the subject line. You can also donate by going online to our website, uuchnc.org, or scanning the QR code in your bulletin. Please join me in our prayer of collective gratitude found in your order of service. For the love that surrounds us every morning, for the friends beside us, and for the generous gifts just received, let us be truly grateful. Our closing hymn is number 95, There Is More Love. Please be seated. Our closing words are Go in Peace, Live Simply by Mark Bellatini. Go in peace, live simply, at home in yourself. Be just in your word, just in deed. Remember the depth of your own compassion. Do not forget your power in the days of your powerlessness. Do not desire to be wealthier than your peers, and never stint your hand of charity. Practice forbearance in all you do. Speak the truth or speak not. Take care of your body. Be good to it. It is a good gift. Crave peace for all peoples in this world, beginning with yourselves. And go as you go with the dream of that peace set firm in your heart. Amen. Please join me in the closing words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, my friends, and blessed be.